Hello, everyone. Hope you've all had a terrific start to your week. Whoopsie daisies. Welcome back to another episode of the Whitepill. Thank you, everyone, for joining me on this late evening. Just to start off the stream, because I didn't mention it last time, but yeah, Happy New Year to everyone. Hope everyone's year has been great. Off to a great start. Mine's a little mixed, but hey, what are you going to do? That's life. And we'll get to a couple new things that I want to announce on the show today. But bear with me for 1 second. I just need to fix my mic. Whoops. Apologies. Give me 1 second. And there we go. That should be better. I just have to adjust the gain a little bit more. How's that? We're doing good? Perfect. All right, this is exactly what I needed. I just want to make sure you guys can hear me. Alrighty. So yeah, as we always start off with the show, if you want to catch anything related to the Whitepill project, you can go to bio.link/whitepill, which is this page here. It's always in the description. You guys can find it there. As always, support me by, liking, commenting, watching this stuff. I appreciate every one of you that does that. Because time on this planet is very finite, and what you choose to do with it should have some meaning. So I'm grateful to anyone that watches the show. On that note, if you want to support the show financially, I am working on merch, as I've said before. You guys will hear it first as soon as it comes out. But if you want to throw some change my way, or have a question you asked or you want asked at the show for me to answer or read aloud, you can do it at the PayPal, which is the first link in the stream there. Let me just open up my notes and we'll get right to it. A lot has happened since the last show. It's only been, 3 days? The VOD is coming out later today for that. I was going to say tomorrow, but today's a new day for me. Yeah, the VOD and the video and all that is going to come out on later today. But so much has happened since the last show. I mean, for one, I don't want to be a braggart, but vindicated for the statements that I made during the show last week, because we have this idea in our heads, especially in Western society, that protesting is like it's the new wave thing. It's the absolute necessity for living in 2025. If you want to signal to whomever that you're with it, that you're part of it, that you're on the right side of history. I guess that's the easiest way that I can put it. But it's a clear signal like that, and it's very cheap. All you have to do is make a social media post. You don't even have to go to a rally. You can just repost people's stuff. But if you do make that additional step to go to an actual rally or hold a poster or what have you, even then it's futile. And let's just start with a couple of videos here. Let me just show you what I'm talking about. Over the weekend, there was, for those who don't know, a Canada First rally, which you would think I would be most excited about, but no. As with most protests, as I've said before, it is fake and gay. So let me just, boom, there we go. Excellent. Let me just give you some volume here so that you can hear the absolute fucking chaos. I mean, it's just chaos what's happening here.
Shit, this is crazy. Yep. Didn't expect this. I didn't expect this. Holy shit. This is the craziest we've ever seen. Yeah. They literally are, what the hell? They're not even moving out of the way. Yeah. Holy shit, he hit the cop. Oh my God, he hit the cop. He hit the cop. Holy shit. The guy hit the cop. Holy shit.
Yeah, I'm not just gonna sit here and make you guys watch all that because there's quite a few videos to go through today. But I mean, once again, what is the point? What is the point of anybody being there in that moment? What is the actual value that you're bringing? What are we doing? And I'm talking about both sides. I'm not even. Let me just move the camera over. I'm not even talking about the people that I, in some ways, may agree with on policies or immigration or what have you, right? But there's no point for any of them to be there. There absolutely isn't. Because what is this? What is this actually doing? Okay, so you held a rally, and for what seems to be the first time that a rally of at least this magnitude had a seemingly positive interaction with the cops, where they actually did their job and they arrested the instigators, Antifa, and all that, right? That might seem like a cheap win, which is what some people have been touting it as, but this is pointless. This means nothing, right? Because now you've given the left an excuse to say, oh, well, look at these fascist thugs, the cops. Of course, they're part of the state. They're an extension. They're the physical embodiment of the state. Of course, they're going to defend people that are for the state. Why wouldn't they? Right? Or they'll just use an argument to say that this whole thing was a fascist undertaking. Right? So you're not really winning anybody with this gesture. It's just kind of both sides trying to essentially vie for power, vie for public space. But they're just standing and yelling slogans at each other. They're not like if we're talking about productive action, they're literally just standing there and yelling at shit, like yelling shit at each other. I'm sorry, like is this just am I losing something here, or am I missing something here? Why is this even considered a fulfilling way to spend time? What history are you writing? Is my question. Like, what is this even for? I got some more clips for you guys here. Oh, let's check this one out. This one seems like a lovely little clip with a gentleman who already has his mouth agape. So this is gonna be loud.
We are here to say no to hate! We are here to say no to hate! We are here to protect each other!
We are here to protect each other.
We will not be divided!
Fucking sheep. Just standing there and yelling back and forth from a guy reading a chant on an iPhone.
We will not be divided! We will...
Yeah, that's right. A protest and you chant, "We will not be defiant." Okay.
Stay focused!
We will stay focused!
What we are seeing here today did not start today!
What we are seeing here today did not start today!
It did not start here!
It did not.
I have no tolerance for this. I'm not going to listen to a whole 2.5 minutes. Does he actually keep going for this whole time?
Canada is not immune!
Canada is not immune!
No way. Does he? Okay, this lasts for like almost a whole 2 minutes. This fucking chant. All right, what is this?
Nazi! Fuck off, Nazi! Let's get on the treadmill!
Somebody yelled, "Get on the treadmill!" Okay, you know what? You know what? As pointless as this is, it is funny. I mean, it is that's kind of funny. You gotta admit, literally getting yelled at as you're getting arrested. I mean, come on, get on a truck. That's all right. Moving on.
You're a fucking what? You're a fucking nuts, huh? That's what you are. You guys are fucking nuts.
Oh no, they've broken through our defenses. They've broken through the gate. They just let them walk right past them. They're like haphazardly forming a line. Like, look at this lady right here to the left. She's like, oh, somebody hook elbows with me. We have to stop the Nazis.
You're a fucking nuts, huh? That's what you are.
And a Star Wars character. A Star Wars character, excuse me. Joins arms with, I mean, look at that. I mean, the video speaks for itself. I can't. I mean, it's reached to a point where I just feel bad for laughing. Man, you walked out of your house dressed like that, and so you tend to protest by wearing a kiffa, which has nothing to do with what this protest is about. You're not even using the symbols right. It's fucking. Oh my god. All right, moving on.
That's what you are. You guys are fucking nuts.
They've broken through the gates. You see the you see the age on this old lady? Oh my god. And no way she's a pastor. Is that just like a collar that is she just late on Halloween? No way she's an actual pastor. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, but also, like, why would you fake wearing a piece of clothing like that? That's okay. So that says a lot about Canada's churches. All right, moving on. I mean, what? Like, do you guys, I know it's the weekend, but like, do you guys not have like jobs or families or any responsibilities? And I'm talking about both sides here, right? I hate seeing this shit across the board. I'm not ideological when it comes to this. Because as much as we've been clowning the left, right, for the last couple of minutes, that's basically like why this protest is considered a win. In the column for Canada First, but like, this is not a win. This is by no means a win. You know, I doubt the actual police got a different directive saying, "Hey, the chief mentioned that we should actually be more friendly to right-wing causes." That's not what happened. It's just the left got too uppity, and the wrong person agitated the cops at the wrong time, and then it just escalated. Because the people on the right aren't there to cause shit. You know, they're not actually willing to slit the other side's throats. They're not as hungry for blood, so they can just stand there peacefully, and they don't have to do these chants about what they're gonna do and what their plan is and what they believe. Like, it's a fucking, like, you guys ever see those videos of Walmart is notorious for this. When they are opening up a store in the morning, and I know this for a fact, not only because there's video of it, but I had a friend that worked in Walmart, and he told me as much. They have a morning chant that they do before getting on with the day, right? And in this chant, you know, they talk about, oh, who's got the best deals? Walmart. Who's got the best customers? Walmart. Like, all that, right? That's what it sounds like. That's what this fucking sounds like. Go forth and disseminate my message. Yeah. And it's on full display, so that's why it's easy to make fun of the left to do that. The right, they show up and they're like, look, we already know the talking points. You know, we've been at the pubs, we've been online, we've had conversations in hushed tones. We understand, because you can't outwardly be talking about this stuff in in Toronto, at least not in downtown. Maybe in some different areas, but you can't expect to talk about this stuff out in public without getting a reaction. So anyways, people know how to mind their P's and Q's. And so because they show up, there's less footage. Because I guarantee it, if there was anything that happened where the right instigated the action or police went against it, the news feed would have been flooded with it. Right? And all I saw was this left-leaning bullshit. Which, once again, just for clarity, like I said in the first podcast, the only reason I'm bringing this up is because literally, like, the day after that I said all those things about protests, here is yet another action by a group of, I don't know, a couple hundred people that did absolutely nothing. If anything, it actually set us back. Because guess what? All of these fucking cops here that are in this lineup here, where's that lineup? Look at them. They're just standing around. Some of them are actually taking action. Others are, you know, making sure nobody's getting too close or nothing. But they're getting paid overtime. Like, this shit is not cheap. You gotta be able to pay, not just any cop, even. I don't even think they just, you know, they're not gonna take a rookie into this. It's people that have done this before. They're getting paid a premium. They're putting their lives on the line. But I love that, I mean, this image perfectly encapsulates the left wing and the right wing protests in Canada, for the most part, right? On average. Where's that? Yeah. Look, the cops have their backs turned to the people that are Canada First. If they were both militant, there'd be a line of separation. Like Moses. Okay, some biblical shit. And the cops would be facing opposite sides to make sure that nobody does anything on either side. But they're clearly facing the leftists. Because the people on the right, they're not going to go after the cops. They're not going to try to get physical. You tell them, here's the boundary where you can stand. Well, they're going to do it. They're going to comply. There's always going to be hooligans on either side. But, like, come on, look at the fucking trucker convoy. What even happened there? Not a single violent incident where somebody that was, like, going against somebody that was leaning left punched them out or hurt them or assaulted them or even killed them or anything. Like, there was nothing. It was fundamentally peaceful. Right? So the cops with their backs like that's not just for any reason. They're in an urban environment. They better have their head on a swivel. Right? But they trust that they're not going to do shit. And so the whole thing, once again, resulted in nothing. Nothing. This did absolutely nothing to push the movement. If anything, like I've said before, you're just getting your face added to the pattern recognition software that is employed by every single police force in an urban setting in North America. They have access to facial recognition tech. They know who you are. They can find you if they need to. But now you've just associated your face with a political point. Now there's a data point of your face and a data point of a political point, right? Whatever side you're taking. Now there's footage, right? And God forbid, right? Good thing that nothing really happened here, but God forbid somebody got into a fight and you just hit the concrete the wrong way and that's it, you're just dead. You know, that's not out of the realm of the impossible that somebody might bring a knife, right? Not a gun. Lefties are not infamous for having guns, especially not in Toronto. But even just like a fight that went bad, you just hit the ground the wrong way and that's it, lights out. Or if you're an old geriatric, which we saw plenty of. You know, imagine if they were on the front lines and they got shoved by a bike. Cops did that on the convoy. They trampled a grandma. Okay, these people, I'm not even defending the cops here, also. I have a contentious relationship with them. But at the end of the day, they will use whatever physical force is possible or reasonable, or they consider reasonable in the moment to deal with what they have to deal with. So yeah, it's an absolute blessing that nobody got seriously hurt. A couple of bruises maybe from the arrests, but like you walk it off. But once again, going back to the point, this did absolutely nothing. Nothing. It created a bunch of clips. Now people on the right are celebrating this as a win to an extent. I saw some posts on Twitter where people were openly happy that this happened and that people came out and did all that. Like, this does nothing. This does nothing because both sides are still entrenched in their views, right? That's how all this stuff works. They go back to their own little echo chambers and they sit there stewing. And then that's it. You know, like it's one thing to set up, as corny as it is now, right? A change my mind table at one of these events. Anyone that does that, especially at one of these events, I mean, you got to have some fucking balls. Because I've seen, I remember that stuff, the trend where people started doing that across universities in Charlie Kirk's memory. And there's some violent action there. There were arrests and assaults and all that, destruction of property. And to do that in Toronto, that's no small feat. So like even if they did something as corny as that, as setting up a change my mind table, that would have been more effective than this. Because at least there's some dialogue. You have a chance to convince somebody. It's out in the open. If you're a good debater and you have the facts on your side, then I mean, what? Like, if they're denying your worldview and they're going against the truth, well, then that's, move on. Next person. That's not a conversation worth having. But this wasn't even that. This was just people shouting slogans at each other with giant placards and posters. If anything, all this does is like help them recruit more people into their movement so that they can keep doing more of this shit. Because once again, like, nobody was out there, I don't know, even like making a speech. Maybe a couple of people spoke, but I mean, I've seen more videos of this than I have of any grand speech. There was a moment that they or actually no, I do remember seeing one video where people on the right, they were having some kind of a speaking situation set up in the middle of City Hall, the outside of it anyways. And I remember they were told to shut it off because they're in a public space and it can't go above a certain decibel. But they did play the national anthem. I did see that. So I don't know how much speaking they got done, but they did play the national anthem. If that was just the event, just a speaking event, them talking, right? Permits and everything if needed, then that would have been way more effective. Because then you're just out there just stating your argument, you're spreading your message. Boom. No violent action. Everyone's just standing around listening, maybe telling some personal stories of how they've been affected by living in Canada in 2025, right? There's a unity in that. There's a sense of togetherness in that, which is what they did at the convoy. They would just give random people the mic and let them speak, and people told their stories. And there's something powerful about that, right? Because the chances of somebody getting up there and lying and being found out as a liar, like, especially if you have a social media feed, like, I mean, you've just lost all respect, both public and private, right then and there. So to get up there and do that takes some fucking balls. But for the normal, average, everyday person that doesn't have to be a psychopath and lie, that's a means of community. It's a means of uniting together. It's a means of creating community, I meant to say. Especially because when you're living in a city like Toronto, the average person that you're going to meet is not going to share these views. It's rare to meet, like, it's a breath of fresh air to meet somebody in an urban setting like Toronto, and they're also Canada first, or Toronto first, or Ontario first, or whatever, right? Like, I've had to develop like a shit test that I do with people to find out if they're chill and I can say something without them being like, you're a fucking Nazi. Because if we disagree, like, I couldn't care less. Okay, so we disagree. But a lot of these people, they hold on to their beliefs so fucking tight that if they were cold, they'd make diamonds out of them, right? Clutching their fucking ideological pearls, that they can't handle a conversation. They can't handle being in the same room as that person. And I've had I've had some of those encounters. So So you have to be clever about it. And having an event where people don't have to be on their guard and they know that like-minded people are around them. They can have a conversation out in the open and not have to worry about anything. Like, there's power in that. There's significance in that. But this, fucking, what the fuck is this? Like, what? I don't understand. What does this achieve? So you stood there and you shouted slogans, great. What did you actually make? What did you actually make happen? And once again, back to my point of overtime. I mean, look at the cost of this. They had fucking horse cops. Those look like riot police. Bike cops. You know, separating the line. Look at, like, there's at least 100 of them. There's more cops than protesters. Could you imagine what the cost is just on labor for that one event? EMS on standby. Cop cars, they have to shut down a good chunk of the downtown core. Major through lines for traffic. I understand it's the weekend and we're not getting as much traction. I get it, but I mean, in a city like Toronto, this is not cheap. And we, the taxpayer, are on the hook for it. So we're paying for these fucking. I'm sorry, but no other words. These faggots to go out in the middle of the square, both on the left and the right. With all due respect, if you show up to one of these things, you're fake and gay. Okay, you're fake and you're gay. All right? There is no point for any of these people to be there. It costs us money. It doesn't actually secure any wins. All it's used to do is just recruit people to either cause so they can do more of these events. Like, I understand why they happen. I'm not an idiot. I studied social movements in university. And I'm not saying I'm an expert, I'm a PhD, respect me. No. I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying I have a cursory knowledge of how these things work, why they work, how change actually happens. Because this isn't going to shift policy. No politician is looking at this as a signal to, oh, maybe my constituents actually, they think different. Maybe I should act a different way. This is convincing nobody. This is not convincing anybody. You're not presenting an actual argument that the other side is going to swallow. Oh, sorry, I just lost my train of thought there. There's nothing being produced here. Nothing of value. Absolutely nothing. Some clips, some fucking commentary, some content. Great. Because what the world needs is more content at a time like this. Yeah, what we're missing is more content. No. No, I won't have it. I'm not going to sit here and accept that this is normal. This is retarded. What kind of a person sits there in their living room or wherever and starts making posters on card? Like, if you actually have a point to make, if you have a stated goal, if you know who the people are in power, you know which buttons to press, right? Like the convoy. Okay, they knew that if they shut down a good chunk of the city, because they just have their, their rigs, then they can just fucking, they can make it so that they have to pay attention to them. Especially if it's right in front of Parliament and they're honking. That is, you can't ignore that. And not only that, but you have a convoy stretching the entire nation from end to end, coast to coast, converging on one single point in the dead of Ottawa winter in minus 30 to 40 degrees Celsius temperatures with wind chill. Okay, this is not a fucking camping trip. This is not a destination getaway. This is a struggle. You're in it for the long haul. And that's not even mentioning the blockades that happen at the bridges and other protests that happen in other cities. Okay, people sacrificed for this. People lost their trucking licenses. People lost tens of thousands of dollars. They lost access to their bank accounts. That's a fucking protest. Okay, at the height of the pandemic, when we wanted to finally show the government, no, you move. We're standing here firmly, and we are not moving. You move. The ball is in your court. How are you going to act? Right? There is power in that. A rallying cry across the entire country that echoed into the world where they had other protests as a result of this. That's powerful. Okay, that's sending a message. They halted trade that was apparently, or so the propagandists, right? Or so the CBC said it was in the hundreds of millions. If that's true, good. Good. I hope that number is accurate. I hope they didn't inflate it. I hope they actually counted every penny. Because that was the least they deserved for doing what they did to Canadians. We hurt them for a second there. And that was great. See, but that was a protest. There's a point. There's an objective. There's a list of demands that they're going to make. They had leaders. They had spokespeople. Right? They were there not just for a weekend showing, but they were there to stay for weeks on end until they had to call the riot police in and beat everyone the fuck up and get them the fuck out of there. This became a national scandal. Okay, this was not just yeah, the trucker convoy. No. People gloss over it as if it's some blip in the radar. No, that was a significant cultural event in Canada. And the fact that it isn't seen as such, the fact that there isn't a heritage minute on it, is a fucking crime. It's nothing short of a crime for what people went through and what they had to do. Right? That is just all to say that it's in complete opposition with whatever the fuck this is. You're literally just yelling at each other from both sides. Great. Job well done. You got your fucking clips. That's awesome. Like, yeah, no, I'm the crazy one that thinks that. I'm the crazy one. No. Both the left and the right need to cut this shit out. Okay, because when inflation goes up, our dollar is deflated the exact same way. Or sorry, inflated rather. But our buying power is deflated. We all live in the same fucking streets. We all live in the same neighborhoods. We go to the same schools, the same shopping centers. We work at the same businesses. There is much more to be offered in the way of unity than these shouting matches that we have in the street that we're paying for. I mean, we're paying for it. We're literally, like, culturally, we're paying for it, and also actually, we are paying for it. Because this benefits no one. This little bullshit shouting match, this cock measuring contest. It's nuts. And the people that do it, just as a quick point, right? Before I get on to the next protest, because there were two significant ones. The kind of people that actually pursue this, that take reverence in doing this and participating in this on both sides, they're fucking losers. Okay, these people are those that do not have meaning in their lives, and so they lose themselves in their ideology to the point where they think that if I just put it on a poster and yell it enough times, if I just give the priest a dozen Hail Marys, then I'll go to heaven. Then I achieve my goal, right? For using a metaphor here. If I just shout my slogan enough times and yell my message loud enough, that'll push the needle. Which is the exact same thing as saying if I just retweet enough posts, if I just make enough posts, if I write enough angry comments under the Prime Minister, under CBC, under what have you, then they'll hear me. Then they'll understand. No, they won't. No, they will not. They don't give a shit. The power players, and regardless of what protest, whether it's politically or financial, what have you, whatever the protest is for, right? If you yell enough times, they don't care. They do not care. The power brokers that you're protesting, they do not give a shit unless you start hurting them. Right? And I'm not talking physical here. I'm saying hurt them financially, hurt them politically, hurt them culturally. Right? That's how you actually get their attention. That's how you get the noggin jogging. That's how you get them to react. But this is fucking, what, you're just yelling at each other? Oh, great. Okay, we're having a shouting match. Just go home and yell into your pillow if you're that frustrated. Because that'll feel a hell lot more cathartic, save us a ton of money. You know what? I should do that. For when I start releasing merch, I'm going to release a pillow that all protesters can scream into. And you know what? I'll find a way, if we can find a way to generate electricity like that. Bro, the energy crisis is done. Fuck the oil sands. I just created the most renewable energy source in Canada. Fucking bitching, moaning, and complaining. I gotta say, the only thing that's worse than living in a Western country, seeing its decline before your very eyes and feeling powerless to help, the only thing worse than that is not being able to take advantage of it and create a new renewable source. All right. That's the Canada First protests, which, my God, what a fucking cringe show. We also had these lovely protests. It was for the current issue with Iran, which, for those that have been living under a rock, Iran is going through some major social upheaval right now, which could go either way. I'm not going to analyze the situation. If you want to listen to somebody that actually knows shit, there's plenty of political commentators that can do that much better than I. Plenty of situation watchers that can do it better than I. But so you have this protest, and let me just show you the scale of this thing, because it is actually mind-blowing. That they got this many people to do it. Not in the dead of winter either. I mean, it's like 10 degrees out, but nonetheless, people came out and were protesting for the end of the regime. Right, and then let me show you the drone view as well, because somebody decided to take a drone and actually video record this. I mean, look at that. That's a good 2-3 city blocks worth of people. Yeah, that's quite a lot of people. That's way more than that entire rally that happened downtown. All the police force, left and right combined. Also, if the person that made the comment in the stream is still watching, I only answer questions at the end of the stream. So you'll have to wait till then for that. But moving on. Yeah, you know what? Forget what I said. I actually underestimated the size. This got even way bigger than I expected. I mean, they shut down a lane of traffic. 3 lanes of traffic, actually. Right, so that's just to get the scale of it. Let me see if I got this other clip here. Yeah, here's another view of it. Here's what really grinds my gears. Alright, I'm not gonna start with that. No, on the same note as the protests, this achieves nothing, but the purpose of it isn't to actually achieve anything. Regime change is happening, whether these people can affect it or not. So that's what they're there for. They're there as a public celebration, right? That is the public celebration and show of support, right? That is the point of all this. My problem with that is that it has nothing to do with Canada. Okay, the only issue here is this has fuck all to do with Canada, and if anything, right, it's more of an indicator that all these people here, they love their home country so much that they're willing to show up for it. Now, you know, it's one thing to have a subset of your population that thinks that way, right? It's another for them to go out and wave these flags in their territory, right? In this area of Toronto, where you have a lot of Iranians living, to just openly display another nation's flag. Like, Canada is in no way involved with with the Middle East, and I'm really glad they're not. Right, I'm really glad that we live just north of a neighbor that's more than willing to do that for us. or for Israel or for whomever. But we're not really all that entangled in that area. We've sent troops to Afghanistan and peacekeeping missions elsewhere and whatnot. But really, at the end of the day, that's America's turf. We don't really touch that shit. We help as a support capacity. And politicians in Canada have also condemned America's interventionism in the Middle East before. So suffice to say, we're not exactly involved in that region. Okay, maybe there's geopolitical outcomes that will favor us or, be negative to us either way. Sure, certainly. You can definitely make an argument for that. But just coming back, this has nothing to do with Canada. Nothing. Nothing. And what frustrates me about this protest is, look, I understand why people would do this, right? I'm not hating them for it. I'm not so retarded that I that I don't understand why they're there. As I stated before, I understand why they're there. Good for them, right? Happy for them. Maybe regime change is what they need. From what I've heard, the government isn't exactly friendly to anyone that thinks outside of the box, or women, to say the least, right? Maybe it would be a better thing. I don't know. But it has nothing to do with Canada. It has nothing to do with Canada. The moment that you land here and you start setting up a life for yourself here, the nature of what happens outside of your world to your quote-unquote home country, right, where you were born, or if you have like close ties to, should not mean anything. It really shouldn't. Canada loves to celebrate this fact about it being a mosaic. They love to say that America is a melting pot and we're more mosaic. We have every culture unified. If you have a society built on that ideal, it is literally only a matter of time until enough people from a certain region. I'm not even saying that to duck out of saying who is, mass migrating here in Canada. It's India. It's India. It's been India for a very long time now. But just as a general statement, right? If you have a country that's built on this idea that if we just import people from whichever country with certain limits to, I don't know, fucking North Korea or active war zones, I mean, even then they want to import thousands of Gazans, right? If you do that enough, these people, especially if you don't have a national identity that people are assimilating to, they're going to stay in their enclaves. They're going to stay within their neighborhoods, within their own language and their own customs and their own traditions, and they're not actually going to adapt to the greater Canadian culture, which is what the issue is here right now in Canada, that we have a ton of people coming from low-trust societies to a high-trust society where, people have a bike lock that they use, sure, but they don't have to worry about, or ideally they wouldn't have to worry about what brand to buy, because one of them is made of, I don't know, fucking surgical steel, and the other is just a braid that you get at Dollarama. I get that Toronto's an urban city and we're an exception. We're not the way that the rest of the country lives, but I would think that you would want to be able to, I don't know, walk the streets safely at night, not worry about getting accosted by violent or insane people, which if you rolled a dice with the TTC, that's exactly what you're risking. Every single day there's a security incident. Every single day there's there's a guy that was literally walking by and fucking stabbing people in the back of their thigh, trying to slice it open, that they caught. Okay, like, this is what happens when we import people from low-trust societies. And I'm not saying all of them are extremely violent. Some of them are just an economic detriment. Like the wave of international students that we got from India that went to these fake colleges that they paid tens of thousands of dollars to get into, right? These diploma mills, or even worse yet, the truckers. The amount of Indian truckers that have come into our country and that have gotten licenses from faulty or otherwise corrupt institutions, right? They're on the road. And there have been incidents. There have been more than a handful of incidents where people have lost their lives because of this. Right? Because the way that they have their traffic laws set up, the way that they have their lives set up is completely different in that country. And they come from a low-trust society, which India is, fundamentally. This isn't even like a racist argument. If you just look at, if you were to divide the world into two columns, right? Let me move my hands here. There we go. Low trust and high trust, you can divide them like that. Japan is a high trust society, like to the point where it's a stereotype to them. I mean, everybody knows about that famous incident at FIFA World Cup. Was it 2016 or 2020? I forget which year. But like literally after one of the games that Japan played, the Japanese people in the stands began picking the trash up after everyone because that's what they do back home. That's a signal of a high trust society. That people can trust in one another in the social contract. Right? All these different things that make life much more manageable and much easier. That make life more productive. Because you don't have to worry about somebody fucking you over on a deal. You don't have to worry about somebody trying to hurt you. Right? On an average level. Okay? For the average everyday person. They don't tolerate that. Right? They stamp it out. That's what Japanese society is. In a nutshell. Right? I'm not trying to psychoanalyze them, but it's not incorrect to say that they have a high trust society. Right? You can leave your bike outside of the cafe unlocked, and nobody's going to touch it. But there's literally a trend. It's a meme now in Shibuya. I think it's a street in Tokyo, where people are known to get absolutely obliterated off their face, and one of the traditions is to buy a bottle of water and leave it by a person, so that when they wake up, they have a bottle of water by them. You can only get that kind of behavior in a high trust society. And here we are, right? Just this scale right here is showing, wow, look at that. We're importing a bunch of people from Iran. Well, let's think. What kind of regime do Iranians live under? What kind of beliefs do they have? You know, and there's plenty of people that escape that regime and that lead good lives and they're honest people. I've met some of them. I'm not even trying to paint all of the Iranis with the same brush. Or sorry, Iranians. Persians, as they like to refer to themselves. I've met some great Persians. Been friends with them. They're lovely people. They're warm, they're welcoming, they're kind. Yes. Yes to all that. But fundamentally, this protest right here, it's showing that they have an allegiance to Iran, that they're celebrating it. Right? Not to Iran as the regime, although there were some people doing that. But I just seeing these demonstrations in Canada, it makes me uncomfortable because I'm not out there on the streets rooting for Russia to win the war or Ukraine. Right? And nobody should be, because Canada is not fucking involved. It's not our business. It's not what we should be worrying about. Like why is there so much attention paid to these issues, right? For each individual side and their own interest, but nobody's protesting for, I don't know, fucking inflation. Lettuce is costing fucking $9 a head. Eggs are costing $30 for 2 dozen. I mean, this is insane. People are going hungry at record high rates at food banks. They have to dip more and more into the food bank system. I literally just heard today the CBC was talking about a grocery store that opened up that is taking food, like buying it from other grocery stores that's about to expire. People are buying food that's about to expire because it's cheaper. And the CBC, our national media, is covering it as if it's some great thing. Right? There's plenty of reasons to protest the way of life in Canada. Okay, we're getting fucked over. That's what this whole show is about. I'm trying to... If you get anything from this show, it's that Canada is getting fucked over, and we're doing it to ourselves. But that aside, seeing protests for what's happening in another country at this kind of a volume with this amount of people out of here, no. Get that shit the fuck out of here. This is not Canadian. This is not Canadian. I mean, literally just today, I saw an MP. I posted a comment on his post. Let me see if I can find it. This is ridiculous. Here, let me pull this up here. So this guy takes a photo of the Islamic leader of Iran, lights it on fire with a shitty big lighter. You can see the silhouette of his assistant taking the video and in front of his political poster, and he's lighting a cigar with it. The guy's Israeli, by the way. He's Jewish. If you haven't caught on. Also, not even born in Canada. Pretty sure he was born in Israel. Which, if you're a member of the Canadian government, you should, doesn't matter, municipal, provincial, federal, what have you, you should not be able to run for office if you were not born in Canada. Right? I understand that that excludes me from the prime ministership, but I will gladly die on that hill and take that L, because you should not have allegiances to any other foreign power. You shouldn't have any allegiances to a different culture. You're in Canada. You rule for Canadians' interests. Canada first. That's the rallying cry. That's what we're all behind. That's what we're all trying to do. Canada first. Not what Iran says or happens. Like, none of that. No Ukraine. No. Canada first. It's Canada first or get the fuck out. That should be the slogan for the movement, honestly. You don't like it, you can leave. That's the way that we have to do it. There's no other way. There's no other way. We cannot tolerate people that have potential ties or beliefs of admiration or anything that might make them waver in the mission for Canada first. I mean, just to close this point off, right? There is an actual, not foreign involvement, but there is pressure that some politicians are facing, at least in Toronto that I've seen, where during their municipal campaign, there were a number of candidates that essentially said, I will vote based on my beliefs on Palestine. Right, or Israel, or what have you. That has no bearing on what happens in my fucking community, man. I don't care. I genuinely do not give a shit. We got America as the big brother to deal with that. Let them deal with it. Okay? Maybe we can exert some influence. Maybe we can vote in the UN. Fine, sure. Whatever. Even if a fucking UN vote cost anything. Okay? Even if that actually even did anything. Fine. We can choose that as a nation, but we have to choose it from Canada's perspective, not from your perspective as an Israeli or an Iranian or a Ukrainian or what have you. No. None of that shit across the board. I am not here on this planet, in this country, to defend another nation's interests. I am here for Canada and Canada first. As everybody living in Canada should be. Full stop. So that's my issue with the Iranian protests. But we'll move on. There are plenty of other things to talk about tonight. Let me just get another little sip. All right, let me get my notes here. So, Venezuela. That was interesting. What Trump did with Venezuela. Wasn't that neat? Wasn't that a nice little Christmas gift? Or New Year's? I don't even know. I don't remember the exact day that it happened. I mean, this post here, it says January 3rd. So New Year's. We'll say it was a New Year's gift. Late Christmas gift. From Trump. And I don't mean gift as in it benefits Canada, because Canada actually gets fucked on this. The fact that America invaded Venezuela means now that Canadian oil has become instantly more expensive to import and therefore to treat and all that than Venezuelan oil. I won't go into the details of which. Like I said, if you guys want actual analysts to talk about this, there are plenty more people out there that are much more convincing and knowledgeable on this fact. But just as it pertains to Canada, right? So Trump does this. They have this massive operation, which happens in the matter of like 3 hours, I think. Not even that it took for them to do that. And so as a result of this operation, they walk in like they fucking know the place, like they own the place. They get Maduro out of his bed with his wife, rip them out still in their fucking PJs at 2 a.m. Not a single casualty, not a single downed aircraft, not a single injury, as far as I know. To an American. They wiped out plenty of Venezuelans, and apparently some of them were Cuban intelligence, or at least worked for the Cuban army. But I mean, this is nothing short of fucking Hollywood shit. They're gonna be, if Clint Eastwood was gonna be alive for another 10, 20 years, like, we can count on a sick ass movie from him about this. Maybe Michael Bay might have a turn at it if he's still alive. But this is nothing of an incredible undertaking. I mean, you whatever way you feel about it, that's a huge swinging dick that Donald Trump has got. And he just slapped the president of Venezuela's face with it. And the world, effectively. Because China and Russia have been trying to influence the space for the longest time. Trying to get influence that's closer to home to America, so they don't have to deal with the distance by the sea. But installing all different sensors and businesses that can help them spy on what's happening in America and just have a closer look. Russia sent them a bunch of anti-aircraft weapons, I believe, as well, which really could have come in handy, but apparently the Venezuelans didn't know how to use them, which is what I've heard. Could be wrong, but this is what I've heard. And America's just like, no, we're not going to fucking do that. Not in my house. We're not doing that. And you gotta fucking respect it. You gotta fucking respect it, because what else are we gonna do? What, Canada's gonna step in? All these nations calling for the condemnation of America? Like, yeah, that's gonna do some shit. They just fucking walked in and took the leader of a country and shipped him back. Trump is like Nick Fuentes said on stream tonight, Trump is like a fucking king. And he told his subjects, go get me him. Go get him. And bring him to me in a burlap sack. And they fucking got him, carried him all the way over, plumped him right in front of Trump on his word. Okay, that's some fucking baller shit. You gotta respect that. You gotta respect the game. Because Canada ain't doing anything like that anytime soon. So however you feel about that, that's something. Real recognize real. That's a real nigga move right there. If I do say so myself. That's a real nigga move. So they do this operation. And it's part of what they're calling, the press, part of what they're calling the Donroe Doctrine. Which is based on the idea of the Monroe Doctrine. Which, for those that don't know their history, myself included, I'm not all that read up on this, but basically in the 1800s, the Monroe Doctrine, it essentially declared that the Western Hemisphere was off limits to European colonization or interference. Right? Some of the core points were that the American continents were no longer open to new European colonization, the US would not interfere in existing European colonies in the Americas or in Europe's internal affairs, and any attempt by European powers to extend their political system to the independent nations of the Americas would be viewed as a hostile act towards the United States. That essentially created two zones of the world. You had the East and the West. And America was basically saying, hands off my shit. You don't touch South America, you don't touch Mexico, none of that. Right? It established the idea of separate spheres of influence. And so Donald is essentially doing just that. Trying to get Greenland, trying to get Panama Canal and all that. Right, that's his move. And you got to respect it. You got to respect it. And people are up in arms in the most silliest of ways when it comes to this. I mean, as if their voices are actually going to mean shit. This guy just showed the entire world that he is able to go in, take their president, and not suffer a single casualty. Do you understand how much certainty in your power you have to have as a world leader to say something like that? Does any of us really even understand what kind of power it takes to do that? To have your word be law? I mean, this is on another level. And I understand that just about every nation has that capability of their word meaning law, or the words of their leaders meaning law. But how many can execute something like this? Russia, China, US, Canada, maybe. Maybe. Maybe if it was snowing in a South American country and Canadians are like, oh, finally, home turf. we know the terrain. We know what to do. If it was snowing and all the combatants were blind, maybe the Canadian Army could execute something like that. Maybe. Maybe. But for Trump to do that, I mean, that's at another level. He's going all the way with it. Now he's thinking of buying Greenland. He mentioned that, oh, we'll just give everybody $10,000. How many people are on Greenland? Fucking, we could afford it. We'll just buy it. I think it was 10,000 or 100,000 or something like that. Insane. Insane. We'll just fucking buy it. You know, people are making memes now where like the entire Western Hemisphere is all just going to be America, Greater America, Southern America. That could very well be true. We could very well see that in our lifetime. That'd be an exciting time to live. But more importantly, right, because this is the Canada First podcast, and even though we love talking about the U.S., our little big brother, well, not little, but our big brother down south, immediately following this, and also the rhetoric with Greenland, people started asking, what if he goes for Canada next? And with all due respect, okay, and I've said this on the podcast before, why on God's green earth would America waste the bullets invading Canada? Why would they ever do something like that? Why? It makes literally no sense. They don't. Okay, if we are even to take these people at their word, which we shouldn't, right? The people that cry about the 51st state and all that. If Canada became a state, or, you know, more likely than not, it would separate into different states. Why would America want a bunch of blue states? Why would they want that? We voted liberal for 10 plus years, right? As a country. Now, Pierre Poilievre, he got the popular vote, or at least had more. There were more votes for conservatives than ever before in any election. But it would still be fundamentally a left-leaning group of people. You're not importing a bunch of Texases. You're importing a bunch of Californias and one Texas, maybe two. Right? That's all you're doing, is just provinces with tons of debt, no policies to actually clean it up. We have a fucking milk lobby in Quebec. I mean, good luck getting Quebec. You know, Canada might fall before Quebec does. They might be the last holdout. But why the fuck would Trump ever do something like that? What I'm getting at is this fear of us being invaded and being the 51st state is irrational. It is fundamentally irrational. But because of Trump's rhetoric, because of how clippable it is, because the boomers are afraid of Trump, this is a very, very, very powerful piece of messaging that Carney used in the last election to get elected. His whole thing was, Trump is coming for us. Make no mistake, he is. If it's not our trade, then it's our country. Right? And Trump's rhetoric also, oh, we 51st state, 51st state, him egging on Mark Carney. Right? It just gave Mark Carney to be like, oh, okay, well, all I have to do is just paint Trump as the bad guy, say that the conservatives are somehow ideologically related to Trump, even though they're not. They're really not. The Conservative Party of Canada is... They might as well be fucking Liberals 2.0 at this point. But, by using Trump as the lightning rod and saying that anyone that is not us is Trump adjacent, right? They were able to get elected. So this message still rings true with hundreds of thousands of people across Canada. I mean, millions, right? And they really do believe that. I mean, like, I understand that might be crazy to think of, but like, they really do believe that. They really do believe that Canada's at risk of being the 51st state. They really do. And I mean, Jesus Christ, how else could they publish a story like this? Right? I was saving this one for last just because of how ridiculous it is, but I can't wait. A letter to the editor. So this is a public contribution. January 12th. I am almost 70, but give me the means to get to Greenland and I'll be more than happy to defend it. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. You took the time out of your day to write this lengthy letter. God, I swear, made is like not even a suggestion that I would make here. Because then made comes at the expense of the taxpayer. I don't have words for this. I don't understand how you could believe that. How you could be a real human being and actually believe that. I mean, I understand it's a hyperbolic statement and they're just LARPing. Because that's what this is. They don't actually mean to say that, yeah, no, send me with army fatigues and a sniper and 1,000 bullets and I'll fucking hold it off. I got this one, guys. I understand that maybe, that's not exactly what they're saying. But then again, I don't know. Maybe they actually do believe it. Maybe they've just seen Private Ryan on repeat and they really do think that they are the best. I mean, we did technically have, I think we still do have the sniping record for the world. So maybe this person, this geriatric boomer is like the granddad of that grand sniper out of Canada. Excuse me, my voice just cracked. Hold on. Right, maybe we are dealing with a Christopher Kyle situation, but I have my doubts. My jimmies are rustled. I have my doubts that this person is as good of a shot that they think they are. But this is a common belief that a lot of boomers hold. That, oh yeah, we'll defend it. This is wrong. Oh my God, Trump's foreign policy. He's going to take over the world. Oh my, what the fuck do you think they're going to do? Right, like realistically, like if we're just looking at the world in the way that it is, China, Russia, Iran, all these countries are buying influence of everyone that they can get. China has the Belt and Road Initiative in Africa. Right, China had a trade delegation sent to Venezuela literally like 2 days before the invasion. They were just there. There were plenty of memes made about them. There's these Chinese delegates, a handful of them, that were sent there to talk trade, or so they said. Right? Who knows what they're actually fucking talking about? But I mean, they're in bed with them, and I'd wager that other countries in South America have their own, agreements with other nations that U.S. is not exactly friendly to. So whether you think it's right or wrong, like, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? Canada does want to play ball with oil? Okay, fine. I'll just take Venezuela because I can. And now Canada gets fucked. And not just Canada, but Canadians. Canadians get fucked. Because if our oil is not wanted by our by our big brother down south, Jesus fucking Christ, what happens to the economy? I mean, we lose all the leverage that we have in the trade talks. What else do we have to trade? What, lumber? Maple syrup? I think America has enough trees, or at least they can import them, but the amount of oil they'll be selling, I really don't think it's a concern for them. Especially with this move, like the moment that they take Venezuela, like, okay, fine, it'll take years to set up the oil contracts in those nations and all that. And once again, I'm not a geopolitical expert by any means, but the fact that the US now has, I would say, a much more accessible port of oil, why would they rely on Canada as much? Why would they care about our influence as much? Doesn't seem like they would. I don't have any arguments for why they should. And I don't blame them. Because our fucking political elite has just completely shat the bed. I mean, this also beautiful piece of writing. Canada could well be next and elbows up won't mean a thing. Why would they take Canada? Once again, it's an opinion piece, obviously. The Toronto Star would never fucking publish this as an editorial piece. But this article just, I can't even bear myself to read this shit. What, like, you know what it is? It's like people say that about The Handmaid's Tale, that The Handmaid's Tale and the people that were when the show initially came out, and it was around the Trump administration too, people were saying, "Oh my God, now that Trump is president, America's going to turn into Handmaid's Tale." Spoiler alert. But that it was going to turn into Handmaid's Tale, and that all the women would have to get forced to, all the women that could give birth would be forced to get raped. And I've seen people make arguments of that whole show is just a fantasy by some sick and depraved women. And that's what it feels like that people believe that Canada is in this example. It's like, no, we'll never be dominated by the US. Get off of me. Don't give me that drink. I don't want to submit. But deep down, they want to give in. They want to submit. That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like sometimes. They're like these people are acting on some psychosexual fucking fantasy that they actually want to be dominated by Big Daddy. I mean, that sounds more reasonable than whatever the fuck they think. I mean, why? Like, once again, why would Trump waste the bullets? Why? All they have to do, literally all America has to do to conquer us, is just wait us out. That's all they have to do. All they have to do is just close down the ports, the border, the everything. Let let Canada collapse for a little bit, and then come in as the saviors. Oh, we'll let you trade. We'll let you trade. But it's got to go through us. You know, America could send warships to our ports, and what the fuck are we going to do? What kind of a navy does Canada have? You know, I'm not saying that the Canadian Army is anything to scoff at or that it's pointless or useless. I'm sure they're capable, but they're not fucking United States capable. They have the single strongest standing army in modern history, arguably top 3. Where's Canada on that list? Like, what? There would be no conflict. There'd be no point. Do we even have a single nuke in Canada? I don't think we do. But these people are fucking, they're hungry. All these people writing these stories, they're hungry for that conflict. I don't understand why. We have one of the single greatest nations. We have the privilege of living above one of the single greatest nations ever on this planet throughout its entire history. America is easily that. The land of opportunity. And we get the privilege of living above them. Because that's what it is. Right? And I'm not saying fucking oh, I'm submitted to the U.S. and don't rape me, daddy. No, I'm just saying you got to know the pecking order. Okay, we can wag our finger and say Trump's a Nazi and all that. Okay, at the end of the day, we have to come to the bargaining table. We actually have to agree on something. There has to be some kind of a working relationship. Because if there isn't, we're missing out on a hell of an opportunity at our own cost. And for what? So that we could trade with Europe? With China? With who? For what? Why would we do that to ourselves? Why would we have to subject ourselves to that? We have a perfectly good neighbor, literally a day's walk. I mean, I don't understand why we're taking this anti-American stand. What? Because Trump says mean, nasty things on Twitter. That's what the fucking boomers are so upset about. Because Trump understands that hard power means sending people into countries to do what he wishes. We have to because we have to respect the United States Marine Corps. What the fuck are we talking about here? Of course we do. Of course we do. No shit. They hold all the cards in our negotiations. What? Like I said, we're gonna cut off the fucking strategic maple syrup supply to them? What the fuck is Canada gonna do against an America that is even like at the moment peaceful, but imagine antagonistic? What the fuck are we gonna do? What kind of industry do we have to combat that? What kind of an infrastructure system do we even have set up for something like that? If we completely lost our dependence on America, what do you even switch that with? Right? So all this like anti-US thing, I don't understand it. We could just be friends. We could just be friends, or at least roommates, right? You don't have to be friends with your roommate, but he's around. You got to pay rent together. You know, maybe he pays a little bit more. Maybe, you know, he has the Ring camera, so he's responsible for security. Maybe he tinkers in his room and creates some cool shit, but also some pretty horrific shit. But every now and then it's pretty fucking cool. You know, that's America. America's our roommate. You know, people have this image of Canada as if it's like some... We're the upstairs neighbor to the guy downstairs in a meth lab. You know, I've heard that example before. That couldn't be further from the truth. America is easily one of the greatest places to live in the world in the entire history of humanity. Easily. The land of opportunity. That doesn't happen just because they shouted at the top of their lungs so much. That happens because people fought and died for that shit. And they live and embody it. And yeah, America's not perfect. I'm by no means ignoring it. I would gladly point out the failures of their administrations or culturally or what have you. Right? Just as I would for Canada. But to have this antagonistic stance against them, thinking that they're going to invade us, what the fuck are you on about? What kind of dommy mommy rape kink fetish shit is that? That has no place in Canada. These people are our neighbors. These people are united in the protection and the proliferation of the West and the West's ideals. They are our ally. Even entertaining this notion that they're going to invade us, Jesus Christ, as if they fucking have to. Like I said, as even if they have to lift a finger to affect what happens up here in Canada. Insane. It's actually nothing short of insanity. Like I understand. Like once again, Canada has some negotiation power. Yes, there are certain resources or parts of trade negotiations that we can shut off that will hurt America. 100%. I'm not ignorant in realizing that. We could certainly hurt them. But why would we? Why? Are we really getting fucked over on trade deals? Are they really screwing us? Doesn't seem like it. Doesn't seem like it. It just seems that Trump is a convenient villain for people, and that it's really easy to hate him because the rhetoric is so whipped up politically. And so politicians can excuse any number of policies based on that principle. And Canadians are letting it happen because for reasons I've yet to understand. It makes no sense. I mean, even this headline here, another fantastic opinion piece from the Toronto Star. Canada must stand up to Donald Trump or there will be no one to stand up for Canada. What are we going to do, man? And I mean that as an actual question. Like, what are we actually going to do to stand up to them? What possible fuckery might you have in your back pocket that will actually stop America from doing what it wants? I mean it as an actual question. Like I'm open to hearing it. If I actually hear that we have, pun intended, a Trump card against America, I would love to hear it. I'd love to know what that actually is that we can use in our negotiations to tell them to fuck off, because it's on our oil. Oil might have been that at one point. Oil might have been that a couple of years ago. Right? But ever since this invasion to Venezuela, it's not. It's not. And it's not going to be for a very long time. So what are we left with? We're left with fucking stories like this. Great. Yeah. More anti-American sentiment. That's what we need. Fucking ridiculous. Unbelievable that my tax dollars are going to this. And not just mine. Our. Okay. Our tax dollars are subsidizing the media in Canada. For those that don't know, it's not just the national media that we're subsidizing, the CBC. You know, you could make an argument there. Oh, you know, public awareness and all that. Sure. Fine. Maybe there's an argument there. I don't fucking believe it, but for some people, maybe. But we're subsidizing private media too. For what? I don't know. I don't know why we're paying for it. If you can't survive in this media landscape, then fucking adapt or swim. Let the market take care of you. I don't know why we're paying for this shit. I really don't. To publish this fucking drivel. That's great. I thoroughly hope they enjoyed their salary for this shit rag I wouldn't wipe my ass with. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. But before we get into that, let me to the next topic. Let me just pour myself a little drinky poo here. Some ASMR for you folks. Hope you have all had a great night. We're going to do this last topic and round it out because I know it's getting late. But I appreciate every single one of you still watching. I really should come up with some kind of a video that I can play in an ad break for times like this, but that's on the way. This is the new year. I've got a lot of stuff coming in for the Whitepill project, so I hope you all will stay tuned. I hope you all enjoyed the ASMR. And with that, we'll get into our final story before we close off the night. Whoops, that's my notifications. Speaking of Carney being a piece of shit, Mr. Mark Carney, our beloved Prime Minister, has taken a trip to China. The purpose of this trip is because, as you gathered, Canada's trade relations particularly, are not exactly friendly to that of the United States at this moment. And so, either because this is done on purpose, or it's a fuck-up of ginormous proportions, which I believe the former over the latter. Because of that, we've had to diversify our trade routes. So they've started to... The Carney government has started to make inroads with Europe, with South America, Latin America, with other parts of Asia, right? So Carney's been on this tour ever since he became prime minister to essentially make up for the fact that, okay, we're not going to rely ourselves so heavily on U.S. trade, which I understand that argument. I get it. Even though the U.S. is an extremely beneficial partner to have, you can't always rely that they're going to be there. right? We have to be prepared for the eventuality that maybe one day they just won't be there for us, right? You can't just run a nation without a plan B. Sure, fine. There's some pragmatism involved in that. I can respect it. But this delegation to China that they're sending, I mean, this is this is demonstrably the last country that we should be dealing with or cutting any deals with. And I'm not saying isolate them completely, because we're extremely reliant on China, as is America, as is the rest of the world. I get that. But for all that China has done to Canada, I mean, the absolute absolutely malicious intent that China has had with some things that have happened in Canada as a result of their mingling, as their manipulation, right? That would be the right way for it. Excuse me, right word. Why would we ever make a deal with an enemy like that? Why? It makes no fucking sense. It absolutely makes no sense. China has demonstrably altered our elections. They've influenced politicians, 11 of which we still don't know the names of, right? There's a big scandal, not just like 2 years ago even. Last years of Trudeau's time as prime minister, there was a major scandal that broke out where 11 people, as a result of an internal investigation by the intelligence services of Canada, found that 11 MPs, at least 11 that they know of, were either wittingly or unwittingly involved in the perpetuation of the mission of the Chinese Communist Party. They had a whole public hearing about it, tons of redacted documents, as you could imagine, but they never released the names. Now, this is not me wishing death on people, but we used to hang people for that. We used to kill people that would go against the state in such an egregious way because you were completely out of line with what the country was planning. You didn't care. No. You were there to make money and to spread the wishes, the intent of another nation. Right? They're actively meddling in our affairs. And not just in some, getting votes for certain candidates. No. You had people in government, right, that did that. The punishment for which, for treason, which is what that is, right, it used to be death. It used to be death. There's a reason for that, because it is the absolute most fundamental betrayal that you can make. You can fuck over your brother, your mother, your coworker, your wife, what have you, right? There's a set of laws for that. But if you go against your country, your fellow countrymen, that used to be dealt out by death, right? They used to be dealt with by death. And as I said, I'm not wishing for anyone's death. I'm just saying that is the severity to which we used to look at that. There's a reason for it. Now people spend some time in jail and whatnot. There's no death penalty for these people. They just, rot away in prison. You can make an argument for or against. That's not what I'm here for. But that's how severely we used to look upon these things. And we have 11 people that could very well still be in office making decisions that were either wittingly or unwittingly involved with the Chinese Communist Party of, well, the Chinese Communist Party. That's a fucking problem. You can't have that in a G7 country. You can't have that in a country that is just bordering the United States. You can't just have that in your country, period. I mean, the fact that this was allowed, that we didn't get the names of these people, the fact that we weren't burning down city blocks for this, that there were no protests, there were no marches, Yeah, okay, fine. So Pierre Poilievre complained in government. They made some speeches. They grilled them at the hearings. Oh, big deal. What do they actually do to change it? What actually happened? Nope, they're still there. Those MPs are still working. They haven't been fired, because if they were fired, then people would have known who it was. And nothing happened to them. So now that country that did that to us, right? And that foreign influence, if you're able to get to members of parliament, that's not just the extent of their influence. That doesn't just stop there. Let's not be naive. It goes way beyond that. If they manage to get people influenced within the government, if that's how far they can reach, then every single point before that, the infrastructure, the citizenry, the businesses, like everything that's involved in getting towards that influence is now infiltrated. So it's not just, oh, there's only 11 of them, 11 that we know of, 11 that we found. Right? Not to mention there was a major scandal in a Toronto election, I believe it was in the federal election, where Chinese citizens, right, dual citizens of Canada and China, were bused to certain precincts to vote for certain candidates. Because the insidious thing, for anyone who doesn't know, the insidious thing about the Chinese intelligence agencies is not that they have these sleeper agents and they send, them out in the field to adapt, to live that way of life. No. All they have to do is say, hey, that's great that you started this life here in Canada. Guess what? Your parents are still back home. Your grandparents are still back home. That property you invested in, it's still back home. You want access to that? You want to make sure nothing happens to grandpa? Well, you better go and show up and vote. It's as simple as that. And that's not even mentioning all the other crazy shit, okay? All of this might sound like I'm making it up. It sounds like it should be in a spy novel. It's real, okay? It is real. Let me pull up this source right here. Oh, look at that. Chinese state-backed hackers breached 20 Canadian government's networks over 4 years, agency warns. Wow, cool. Cyber attacks. That's great. That's very cool. That's very cool. Okay, that's a Facebook post. But let's see this. Canada spies found China clandestinely and deceptively interfered in last 2 elections. Last 2 elections that we know of. Cool. Cool. That's great. There was also a theft from Canada's top virus research lab during the peak, or I think just before the peak of COVID, just before COVID really kicked off. Okay, this is a very well-known story where they stole, the Chinese agents posing as scientists stole live Ebola samples and other biological materials from Canada's National Microbiology Laboratory in Winnipeg and shipped them. Guess where they shipped them? You're going to I hope you're sitting down. They shipped them to the Wuhan Institute of Virology in 2019. It's a little bit on the nose, isn't it? It's a little bit on the nose. Don't believe me? Here's the source. Scientists fired from Winnipeg Disease Lab intentionally worked to benefit China. CSIS report. Would you look at that? Would you look at that? Google it for yourself if you think I'm fucking lying. This is the absolute truth. This actually happened in Canada, and now we're going to make a trade deal with these fuckers. And I say that knowing that I can never go to China. And I mean, I haven't been able to for a long time. I've never been friendly towards China in the podcast, so I'm sure they wouldn't want me to go in their country anyways, but I mean, this is an openly hostile nation towards Canada. that is fucking us. They are absolutely fucking us with their political interference. I mean, I haven't even gotten into the precursor ingredients for fentanyl that China's been shipping. I mean, that story has been told in the US for so long, but it's happening in Canada too. They're poisoning our people. They're interfering with our elections. They're stealing research and data from us. And this is the nation, like what we do is we turn around and we reward them with a trade deal? Go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. That is, I'm sorry, with all due respect, that is the only response that one can have to a nation like that. If that's what you do to my country, go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. I'm keeping you at an arm's length. I'm trading with you if I absolutely need something, but otherwise I'm doing everything I can to make myself independent of you, so that I don't have to deal with you, so that I don't even have to run the risk of having to rely on you, because this is what you do to me. Right? That's the way that our policy should be shaped. That's the way that we need to look at China. And look, like I've stated many times before, I am not a geopolitical expert by any means, and I understand that we sometimes have to make deals with the devil. But at the end of the day, we can't accept this level of aggression. Are you serious? That's the equivalent of somebody bitch slapping you in the face and you just standing there and taking it. I mean, that's essentially what they did to us. Yeah, we can infiltrate your top secret labs at the highest level. We can infiltrate your elections at the highest level. And we will poison your people. And this is the response that we give to them, is to send a trade delegation? Not only that. No. It gets better. It gets better. Because apparently, a couple days prior to this trip being announced, or it, going into operation, there's a delegation in Taiwan that had to be recalled. Because it's very inconvenient to have some people in your government in Taiwan and the others in China at the same time trying to make a deal with China. Because they're going to take a look at that and be like, what the fuck are you doing? Now you're recognizing Taiwan as a country? Why are you dealing with them? Come to us directly. We're China. Taiwan is part of us. And so in order to save themselves from that embarrassment, from getting kicked out of the delegation talks, 2 Liberal MPs had to cut their Taiwan trip short. Very interesting. It's very interesting. So, they're so proud of their liberalism that they will gladly condemn Trump for his actions in Venezuela and Greenland. But when China is rattling their saber with Taiwan, we tell our people to head back home so as not to lose face. Really? How does that fucking work? Can anybody explain to me how those two ideas can be held at one time without some kind of a fucking psychic break? I mean, I'll answer that question. You can't. You can't, because they view Donald Trump as one force, and they view China as another. They're not equivalent. They don't treat them the same way. They don't treat them fairly. Which, fine, sure. I get it. I'm not a retard. I understand this. But Trump is not nearly as malicious as China is. The Americans have not sent the fucking CIA or FBI up here to steal sensitive data on viruses. They don't have to. We can send it to them freely because of the relationship that we have. They haven't tried to influence our elections in such an insidious way that they're paying off members of parliament to go for their country's interests. because Canada's interests are so intertwined with America's that it's natural. It's not a. It benefits us both to have that kind of relationship. It doesn't benefit us to have a fucking. Why would we have a beachhead for China's interests? This is Canada. We're on the other side of the world. What do we have that China would want us to do that we would actually agree with? Why would we go along with that? It makes no fucking sense. Right? America hasn't done any of these things, and yet we're sending delegations to China. Why would you? Because here's the other thing. This is only going to serve to antagonize the U.S. even more. Because the U.S. is going to look at us and think, okay, fine, sure, trade is a little bit rough right now and we're going through a rough patch. Whatever, we'll get over it. But why the fuck are you meeting with China? I mean, if America has any enemies, China is on that list. Okay, they're in the top 3. And we're making deals with them. Not only are we making deals to them, but we're also ideologically, we're bowing to them as a sign of respect, and we're pulling the delegation from Taiwan early. I failed to see how this benefits us in any way. These people do not have our interest at heart. Not Mark Carney, not the people around him. They don't give a fuck. They let China walk in and do their thing. China slapped us with their dicks. Not as big as Trump's. But we let them do that, and now we're sending a trade delegation so that we can make a better deal with them? What the fuck are we on about? How is this in any way Canada first? How is this in any way for our interests? I don't understand. I have a hard time seeing that. I don't know how this benefits us. Oh, we get more fucking soybeans, more canola oil for a fraction of a cheaper price. Something about EVs. I don't know. Like, what are we getting from here? What are we getting from them that we can't get from America? What are they actually going to provide us? I mean, this is just further risking our trade negotiations with America. It's insane. It's insane. And look, like I said, I'm not saying this as if I have a perfect alternative. This is how we should shape our talks with the U.S. But at the end of the day, this doesn't benefit us, and we're dealing with a fucking enemy. We're openly sending our leader, the leader of our nation, to go talk with their leader and hope to get a deal. They're not taking us seriously. China knows exactly what we're capable of and what they're capable of. They're doing this as a favor to us. They're not stressed about this meeting. Mark Carney is, I bet you that. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And once again, the only reason that this is happening, okay, the only reason that we're at this point where we have to deal with China is because Canada has torpedoed its trade relations with America so badly that they have no other options to turn to, which is, I mean, that is either a feat of magnificent stupidity or absolute malicious ill will, or maybe a combination of both. I really can't tell. I can't tell how much of this trade shit is on purpose and how much of it isn't. I really don't, because there was this ad, for those who don't know, there was this ad that our premier in Ontario decided to run, which cost us millions to make, by the way. This ad that they ran in some US states bordering Canada, it was essentially an anti-tariff ad. It got Trump so pissed that they completely just shut off all discussions of trade for a while. I mean, this one lit them up. And you know what? In that case, let's give a quick listen to the ad here for a moment.
When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, It looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. But over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. America's jobs and growth are at stake.
And don't worry, I was listening to the ad the whole time there. Why? Why was any of that necessary? Why would you do that? Why would you take one of America's, I mean, just a fact, one of its most, maybe beloved isn't the right word, but recognizable and iconic politicians in political eras, why would you do that thinking that it would actually improve relations? Because you're using their words against them from a figure that their right-wing establishment holds in fervor. There's plenty of people that still love Reagan, right? And what he did for the Republican Party in America. And that's also the current ruling party. Why would you use the words of their leader, of their past leader, against them in such a way? This makes no sense at all. Like, what? How could that ad be convincing? I mean, realistically, whatever people's stances on tariffs, America's gonna be fine. They're gonna be fine. Okay, so fine. Some businesses shut down, whatever. Their economy in the greater scheme of things is gonna be fine. They're gonna be fine. It's Canada that's gonna be fucked. Okay, we're the ones that are dealing with a much more serious situation if trade negotiations go south, with a much more serious economic situation if trade goes south. Okay, we're the ones that actually have to bring something to the table. It's not on equal footing. Any rational Canadian will tell you the same. Right? And I'm not saying I like that or that I prefer that as the way of life, but that is the reality of the American and the Canadian relationship as it stands. They turn off the tap, we go bust. Simple as. That is a reality that we have to realize. That, I mean, to what extent do we even have an industrial economy? How much of the things that we consume can we even make in Canada? It's fucking frozen here for for close to half the year. Okay, we don't have the advantages that America does, both geographically, politically, economically, technologically, culturally. We don't have that. We don't have a Hollywood. We don't have a Silicon Valley. We don't have the orchards of California. We don't, or the coastline. Right? There's some pretty damn great things about Canada, don't get me wrong. Our lumber industry is strong. We have huge mineral deposits which are going untapped. Our oil reserves are going untapped. Right? I'm not saying that to say that Canada doesn't have any strength and it can't project it, or that we don't have any leverage. We do have leverage, but it's only on a few levers. It's only on a few levers, and why would you risk the relationship with a trading partner that has been intrinsically tied to you at the hip for so many years? Why would you do that? Let me remind you, for anyone that's still listening, when Trump initially came out and said we're doing tariffs and they started applying them, there were only like a handful of nations that actually decided to retaliate. Canada was one of them. I mean, let's find out. Let's ask Rock. So after the initial launch of Trump's tariffs in 2024, which countries retaliated with tariffs of their own? Canada was like among the 3 or 5 that did so, and it wasn't exactly a group that you wanted to be with. Canada, China, and the European Union. Right, and even the European Union, they dropped those. They dropped those immediately, and Canada still has them, I think, for some products. I can't say for sure. But really, like, that's the group that we find ourselves with? It's Canada and China? Really? These are the people we share an ideological backing with? Really? Jesus fucking Christ. What the fuck are we doing? I don't mean to be so vulgar tonight. It's just that living in Canada and seeing these things and knowing that they affect your daily life can make you go insane sometimes. Or think that you're going insane sometimes anyways. So that's why I swear so much. And I'm working on it. But anyways, just to get back to the point. They released that ad, completely shuts down like all negotiations, everything. And this is what they had to say about it. This is what they had to say when Trump, well, months after, the incident. I think this was like 2 months or so after. But just give this a listen.
Well, number one, that was the best ad that's ever been run. 12.4 billion views. We wanted to bring it to the attention of the American people. And be very frank, it was President Trump. If he didn't comment on it, rather than 12.4 billion views, it might be 12.4 people viewing it. But in saying that, our intention was to bring it to the attention of the American people. Well, number one, that was the best ad that's ever been run.
Best ever ad that's ever been run. Best ever ad that's ever been run. Ever in the history of ever. Don't mind me, I'm just popping another Zin. We'll be finishing off soon, don't you guys worry. Best ever ad to ever be run. Really? That was the best ad? That's what you're saying? Beat out fucking Don Draper? Really? That beats out Marlboro Man? That beats out the fucking Cadbury's Gorilla? You guys know the one. He does the drum beat to Phil Collins' Feel It in the Air Tonight. You guys know that commercial. Wait, hold on. You're telling me this beats out the House Hippo? That's what you're telling me? This beats out the House Hippo ad that we all saw as kids? Fuck off. Fuck off. Also, just a quick little gag. Look at Mark Carney's face to the right here when he says best ever ad that's ever been run.
Well, number one, that was the best ad that's ever been run. 12.4 billion views.
You catch that? You catch that little micro expression? Let me slow that down. Let me slow that down to quarter speed, okay? Watch his fucking eyes.
And run 12.4.
That right there is the face of a man who done fucked up. Because he hitched his wagon behind this fucking donut of a human being. I mean, look at that. Look at that. Just, he's got the fucking 1,000-kilometer stare. He's got the 1,000-meter stare. Oh, just play this. Hold on.
Billion views. 0.4 billion.
Immediately catches himself. Now, that's a trained politician. He knows how to control his eyes. Most popular fucking ad. Insane. All right, let's get some more footage of this because this is incredible. This is nothing short of incredible, rather.
Trump.
Here's Carney asked about the ad.
President Trump, says he's canceled these trade talks because he's upset about the Ontario government ad. We've heard from the Business Council of Canada and even some of President Trump's own advisors who suggest the frustration with Canada runs deeper. So is this about the ads or is this about something else?
I would suggest you take the president at his word for his reasons.
Was a free trader.
The Prime Minister was explicit today in saying that it was the ad that derailed negotiations which were moving ahead. With that in mind, why don't you feel you owe Ontarians an apology? For sticking up for Ontarians? Well, let's talk about a so-called imminent deal. I've been hearing this for month after month after month, and if there was no mention about auto.
How are relations with the Prime Minister? Are things strained now because of what's happened?
Not at all. He saw the ad before I put it out, so did his chief of staff. They both saw it, and we moved forward on it. But again, we achieved our goal. As we say, mission accomplished. It was done.
Mission accomplished. Mission accomplished. That's what you have to say for yourself. I do not have the expletives. I lack I lack the expletives in the English language to say how I feel about this man for saying that. Mission accomplished. Good job. You just torpedoed trade talks with the US. Great, because what sets me off the most, because that gave me psychic damage, the fact that he said that. What sets me off the most is that we're supposed to pretend that these people don't know how to deal with Trump. Like they don't understand that Trump likes compliments and that Trump likes gifts and big gestures to get his attention, to show how important he is. That's what Trump is, right? That's what he likes. Anybody with fucking 2 eyes can see that. Okay, Tim Cook gave him a golden iPad or whatever the fuck. Didn't he give him like a golden apple? What was the gift that he gave him? Let's look this up. Tim Cook gift to Trump. It was a plaque. Golden plaque at the bottom. Of course, it's got to be gold with a glass piece. But yeah, it's got to be gold. What does it even say? President Donald Trump. That's all. Made in USA. Like this is what he lives for. This is what he loves. He loves the adoration. He just wants to be loved. The guy spent how many decades on that Apprentice show? At least 10 years, if not 20. You're telling me these guys don't know what he likes? They don't know what to do to get on his good side? No, they did this on purpose. They did this on purpose, and they don't care. They don't care. They don't care that plants are going to shut down, that businesses are going to die, that people are going to lose their jobs, they're going to go on unemployment. They don't give a shit. They're willing to eat that cost politically because the benefits outweigh the risks for them. And that's a gross miscalculation. I'll tell you that much. That's a gross fucking miscalculation. You start fucking with the working class like that, you are living on borrowed time. And by living, I don't mean like they're going to kill them. I mean that like your administration, your way of life, the way that like your worldview and everything that you do to create it, to push it out into the world, you just sped up the clock towards it dying. That's all you did. Because these people that are affected by that video, that one ad that apparently Mark Carney saw and knew about beforehand, the people whose lives are going to be irrevocably affected by this, they were not going to forget. They are not going to forget this. They're not going to forget what he said. They're not going to forget what they did. Mission accomplished. Yeah, no, mission accomplished. You're right. You're right. Yeah, you just, congratulations. You just pushed Canada further towards a decline. Mission accomplished. No, that's great. Let's get some more footage of this, because this is an endless fucking mine. An endless mine of treasures and goodies.
An ad. Back to the Reagan ad. How do you know the Prime Minister and his Chief of Staff saw this particular ad before you moved ahead with airing it?
I was with them.
Did they express concern when you were with them?
I'm not going to talk about our private conversation at all. I told them that we're running it. I'm going to cut it off on Monday, and that's it. I think it was it was the right thing to do. It stirred a conversation like I've never seen before. But I saw a poll on CNN that Canada is way more popular than the president with the American people. We love Americans. I'll tell you, we don't love President Trump. I'll tell you that. And
You saw a poll on CNN. That's who you're fucking citing. You're citing CNN. Okay, let's play this out. Let's play this out.
I think he was in the poll I saw on CNN is minus 60. I don't know, minus 60. I don't know how much lower you can get than minus 60. So why doesn't the president start being nice, play nice in the sandbox to his biggest customer in the entire world, and everything's hunky-dory. So let's get on with it.
Ambassador Hoekstra.
So everything's hunky-dory. You spit in his fucking eye and you tell him, let's be friends. Really? That's your fucking mission accomplished? Okay, all right. Let's hear more of this.
To use a blunt phrase, cursing out your Ontario representative in the United States at a meeting. What do you say to that? This was related to your advertisement related to Donald Reagan.
Yeah.
What's your response to Ambassador Hoekstra's words?
Pete, you got to call Dave up and apologize. It's simple. You know, the cheese slipped off the cracker. I get it. You're ticked off. But call the guy up. But just call the guy up and bury the hatchet. Call the guy up and apologize. Let's start getting back on track. I'm not telling him. I'm suggesting that, you know, if you get hot-headed one day, call Dave up and say, I apologize. Sorry, got a little heated. So, you know, that, as simple as that. People get in disagreements. It's unbecoming of an ambassador. I've never heard of this in my entire life.
Words fail me. I have no words. I don't understand how you can I don't get it. I don't understand how you can just say that. I don't understand how you can just stand there in front of the news and say something as ridiculous as that. It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no fucking just make up. Just make up, really? Like that's what you have to say for yourself? Your administration torpedoed the trade talks to the point where delegates are cussing each other out over it. I mean, could you imagine how embarrassed the trade delegation was? I mean, how many of the people in the actual administration agreed with the ad and wanted it to be pushed? How many of them actually agreed with it going out in the first place? How many of those people that were trying to cut deals and actually look out for Canada's interests in that moment were just like, why would you do this? Why? What purpose could this serve? Why are you doing this as we're negotiating? This makes no fucking sense. You push out a targeted ad using one of their leaders' words against them, against a guy who is infamously known for acting on emotion, and you think this is going to appeal to his better nature? You think that he's going to make up? You think that he's going to... You think he's going to play nice? He's going to want to go back in the sandbox, as you said? For what? I just... Words fail me. Words fail me. Let's get another clip of this, because this is just like I said at the beginning of this, I have no way of knowing, and Canadians are not going to have any way of knowing whether this was actually malicious or by accident, even though I lean towards malice, because I don't understand how you could be that fucking stupid to do something like this. There's no way of knowing. But even so, that this is going to irrevocably affect millions of people's lives on both sides of the border. All because what? They wanted to saber rattle and say, no, Canada matters. I just, okay. Roll the clip.
Ads fall under your ministry. With that government ad that has led to headlines around the world, did you keep the federal government in the loop before going ahead with that ad?
Oh, sure. There's lots of conversations between the Prime Minister and Premier Ford. They have a great relationship. As you heard last Thursday, the Premier reiterate that Premier Ford has 100% confidence in Prime Minister Carney. We're in this together.
Ads fall.
Glad to hear. Glad to hear they're all in it together. What's this last clip that we got here? Oh, excellent. This is the interview that they had right on Christmas, or it was published on Christmas anyways.
Have the tough negotiations, which we're having. Have those discussions, and then if a good deal is there, yes, we will sign it. But if it's not there, we're not going to sign a bad deal.
Just to be clear, there aren't negotiations underway now formally.
There are not formal ones yet.
Okay.
But there's negotiations about negotiations. How's that? That's the way it works.
Oh, you're a politician.
No, but that's the way it works. That's the way it works in trade. So we're the scoping of what's going to be in CUSMA, how it's going to be arranged, and that's going to come. Have the tough negotiations.
Yeah, I'm glad she's fucking laughing. I'm real glad that she finds it funny. That's great. Now, the best part about all this is that this little tidbit, this little viral clip, about a month before that, or at least it was published a month before that, came out when Carney was asked when the last time he spoke to Trump was. This one's just incredible. Just listen to this.
Who cares? I mean, it's a detail. It's a detail. I spoke to him. I'll speak to him again when it matters. I mean, the sort of, comme j'ai dit, nous sommes très occupés. Nous sommes très, très occupés avec l'avenir du Canada. Nous sommes maîtres chez nous et avec les nouveaux partenariats. Et il y aura des conversations, oui, avec le président et moi.
What he's saying there in French is there's lots of work to be done. I'll talk to him when I talk to him. We have a lot of dialogues going back and forth between the states. He's just trying to save face for the fact that he knows he fucked up because he's tired of getting these questions about when he's going to talk to Trump, right? Because his whole platform, Mark Carney's platform, was, I am the tough negotiator. I am the only one that can deal with Trump. I will secure Canada a great deal because of my history as a banker, my history as working with politicians, right? He relied on his record for all of that, saying, I am the man to weather the storm against Trump. That is what we were sold on. That is what we were told. And so when the reporter called him out on it and said, hey, haven't heard any talks with Trump in a while. This is kind of your thing. This is what you ran on. What's going on? This was his answer.
Who cares? I mean,
you see how flippantly he waved his hand? Okay, I'm not a body language expert by any means, but I know when someone's telling a reporter to fuck off. And that's exactly what this looks like.
Who cares? I mean, it's a detail. It's a detail.
It's a detail. Yeah. And then he goes into a long-winded explanation of how important Canada-US relations are, and yada. Yep. Yeah. A little Freudian slip.
Who cares?
Who cares? Who cares that steel plants are going to get shut down? Who cares that the economy is going to tank? Who cares? Right? Who gives a shit? Who fucking cares? Boo-hoo. Right? Now, just as proof, because we like to show proof on this podcast, here's some clips of Carney illustrating his masterful tactics with Trump. Right now, he was going to be the one.
To message be to Donald Trump down south?
Well, it will be the same message that I've given him directly and I've been saying publicly, which is that we're two sovereign nations. There is a partnership to be had, an economic and security partnership to be had. It's going to be a very different one than we've had in the past. But also, we've got lots of other things to do. We can build out our economy here at home. We are in the process of building our relationships more deeply in Europe, elsewhere around the world. So we'll have a partnership on our terms. There's a win-win possibility there.
Yeah. Partnership on our terms. Yeah. How's that fucking working out for you? Here's another one.
It would be helpful for Canadians to know exactly what you would do when it comes to tariffs. So why are you being so reticent to talk about that?
Because I'm a good negotiator. If I am selected as leader and therefore prime minister, my interlocutor, the person I would negotiate with, is the president.
You are not yet subject to ethics requirements.
I don't have any power, Rosie.
No, but would you put anything out there for Canadians to better understand your business dealings and your financials?
I will immediately subject myself, if I am elected Liberal leader, of course I'm going to immediately subject myself to all the ethics guidelines, conflicts of interest guidelines, other guidelines.
Anyways, it goes on. He's the tough negotiator. He's the one to get the deal. Yeah. Here's another clip.
You know, today is a difficult day for Canada. It's a difficult day for the industry because of these unjustified tariffs that have been put on. We and my colleagues and the government want to make absolutely clear that we stand foursquare with you in this, and we are doing several things.
They're doing several things. They stand with you as they torpedo trade talks over a fucking advertisement. Yeah, they stand with you, all right.
To put us in a strong position. See, this is a fundamental mistake that the Americans are making. They think they will weaken us. They think that they can own us, quite frankly. That's what they think. We are going to get stronger. We are going to wait this out. They're going to come to the table, and we're going to negotiate a good deal for the Canadians. Thank you, Steve.
Sir, did you say that President Trump is waiting to talk to the Prime Minister of whoever wins this election?
Well, that's an interpretation, but I think it's a reasonable interpretation. I'm available for a call, but, you know, we're going to talk on our terms.
Yeah, talk on our terms. Yeah, the same terms that you fucking blew up. Talk on our terms. Jesus Christ, what a fucking snake.
President Trump's tariffs on Canada could be imposed as early as tomorrow. President Trump thinks Canada will cave in. We will never, ever bow down to a bully. Now, let me be clear. This situation, unfortunately, could not be more serious. And at times like these, we need serious leadership and a serious plan.
Serious leadership and a serious plan. And also, I'm going to run an ad that's going to torpedo the entire talks and fundamentally ruin our relationship with the United States. Serious leadership with a serious plan. Last clip.
You were elected, I think it's...
Whoop. That's a little too loud. My apologies. Let's get the audio working here.
You were elected, I think it's fair to say, in part to deal with Donald Trump. But since the election, you have dropped retaliatory tariffs, you've given up the digital services tax, and you apologized for an ad that the Premier of Ontario ran. So I guess Canadians might want to know whether...
See that little fucking, that head tilt? That little admission of, I fucked up. I fucked up. Look at this. Look at this. Look at his little head tilt when she talks about the ad.
tax, and you apologized for an ad that the Premier of Ontario ran. So I guess Canadians might want to know whether we are any further ahead for doing or not doing any of those things.
Well, we are in a lot better position than we were 9 months ago. The challenge remains that the United States has fundamentally changed its trading relationships with everybody in the world, Canada included. But one of the points I made right from the start when I was running to be leader of the Liberal Party and then running in the general election is we need to control what we can control. We can't necessarily control Donald Trump, I think everyone's figured that out, or the United States of America.
Oh, but I thought, weren't you just saying that you were the Trump whisperer, that you knew how to deal with him, that you were going to stand up? I thought you were the guy that's supposed to know, but now we don't know? Okay, all right.
What we can control is what we build here at home. You look at the progress we've made. One Canadian Economy Act. Okay, we'll go into this, but it's important to underscore because this is what's going to make the big difference for Canadians.
I get that.
Sorry, may I finish? Which is, so we're made huge progress in terms of building here at home, massive progress on new trade deals and relationships abroad. All of that puts us in a stronger position as a country, more independent, better future, stronger negotiating position with the United States.
Better ingredients, Papa John's. The fuck? What is he talking about?
United States.
And that's the other piece of what you were. That's the other piece that you were elected on. But you were also elected on standing up to Donald Trump and getting a deal with him. And yet, since you've been elected,
and yet we have the best deal of any country in the world.
But that's not what you were elected on. You were elected to get.
Was I not elected to get the best deal of any country?
So that's
no, I would have thought.
So that's it. You're done.
Better is always possible, Rosemary. We can always do better than where we are, and we look to do better. But if you look at where we are relative to other countries, 85% of our trade, as you know, is tariff-free. We have unparalleled access relative to other countries, including Mexico, our partner in CUSMA, to the U.S. market. Now, we are just entering the next phase of these discussions, negotiations. There'll be negotiations in the end around the review of CUSMA, which will start early in the next year.
Okay.
So he, literally just dancing around the fact that the Canadian people picked you to not only get the best deal for us, but to also stand up for our interests and to defend our sovereignty. And yet, a ton of blunders, not even just the ad, but besides the ad, there's way more stuff I can go into, but I don't have the time for it. The ad being the cherry on top, all of that tanks negotiations completely makes it worse for us, for Canadians, for the average working person. Right? Also the other side of the border as well, like you're fucking up their lives too because of your ego play, and you're traveling to China for what? You're turning to China as a way to mitigate some of the damage that the US is doing? And the only reason that the US is doing that damage, or at least one of the reasons, is because you're being purely antagonistic towards it? I mean, make this make sense. I'm at a loss here. I don't understand how he has any ground left to stand on, saying that, oh, we have the best deal relative to everyone else. Okay, but fuck relative to everyone else. We need the best deal for Canadians. How does putting out an ad that torpedoes all these talks and gets Trump in a fucking tizzy, how does that help? I mean, it's stuff like that that makes me question, are any of these people, or are some of these people actually genuinely, do they actually want a relationship with the United States? Because it doesn't sound like it. No matter how much they say it, their actions don't seem to reflect it. And so I I don't know where that leaves us. I don't know where that leaves Canada moving forward. And I don't like entertaining that thought. I really don't. I would much prefer it if we had just a nicer relationship with the US, because as I said, they're willing to go into another country, rip their president from his bed in his PJs just to enact their influence. Okay, these are people you want as a friend, not as an enemy. And I'm not saying that Carney and Doug Ford's actions are gonna turn the guns of the US on Canada. That's not what I'm saying. So the boomers are saying. But I'm not saying that. That's a ridiculous position to take. But there's absolutely no need to make the conditions of life of people of Canadians worse for the sake of a fucking what? Of an ideological victory? For votes? These people do not have your best intentions in mind. They don't give a shit about you. You're cannon fodder to them. Okay, this is the signal that they are sending, and we need to expect better of our politicians, better of our representatives. We need to expect better of ourselves. We deserve more. We deserve a better life. This is not as good as it could be. It could be so much better if we just got out of our own way. And yeah, a lot of this show tonight hasn't been white pills, but that's the way it goes sometimes. Sometimes you just start off the new year with a bad break, and look, one way or another, Canada will outlive this. We will outlive Carney. We will outlive Doug Ford. And these systems and institutions, they're just biding time before the inevitable collapse. You can't have a society built on these kind of values where you're putting the most powerful neighbor anyone can have on the planet into your enemy. It's not sustainable. So whatever happens, happens. But look, at the end of the day, I'm Canada first. I want the best for my country, for my neighborhood, for my family and friends and loved ones. And this, whatever the fuck this is, all these ads, all this talking on national TV that they're doing. Oh no, trade relations are actually going great. We're gonna get the best deal. We have the best deal out of everyone else. Sure. Then why am I paying out the ass for a head of lettuce? For 2 dozen eggs? Why am I paying out the ass for rent? Why is life so shit when you say it's so great? And that's the question. That's the question. But listen, before I end off tonight, I do want to announce something. I finally made something. I don't want this show to just be a talking exercise for me to speak into a camera for hours at a time. I want to actually make something of this. So part of this is what I've come to call the list. And this is something that I've provided a link for in my on my Twitter. I'll post a link in the video description as well. But just to close off the episode here before we finish off, this list that I'm compiling, as you can see by the categories below: laws and policies, judges, deport lists, scandals, brands to boycott. These lists, of which there will be many, are essentially lists that come election time, or come the time when it is politically relevant, anybody that is part of the Canada First mission, because this is open public, I will release the link for everyone to see, can use these lists to demand better of their politicians, their public representatives, their business leaders, their country. This list will contain a number of different categories and stories and issues and names of people that you can actually bring to, like I said, politicians, the donor class, whomever, right, when they actually need your vote. Because once they're in office, once they're in power, they can do whatever the fuck they want, regardless of the platform they ran on. Okay, they can do whatever the hell they want. They're not beholden to you. But that once a year or once every 4 years or once ever how many years, these power brokers, depending on the list, actually need your vote in order to remain in office. This is when we will present them with a list. This is our list of demands. Right? The laws and policies, this is going to be the list of policies that we need changed. For example, halal production. Right? Canada just invested, I think it was about 2.5 or 25 million into halal and kosher production. Or sorry, it was 25 million. It was 25 million that they invested into that. This has nothing to do with how meat should be produced in Canada. Okay, because halal meat, what they do is they slit the throat of the animal and they let it bleed out. That's fucking barbaric. Okay? That is fucking barbaric. That is a barbaric way to kill an animal. And our tax dollars should not be going to that. You want to do that for your own religious purposes? Fine. Go to a halal butcher. Have them do that. But my tax dollars should be fucking funding that. Okay, so that's an example of a policy that we need to get reversed. And, who the actual pain points are, who we contact, all of that is going to be added to the list. It's a work in progress. Right? But all of the stuff is here. Gold reserve. We sold all of our gold back in 2016. Just about. So Canada has no functional gold reserve, which is a fucking problem. The OnlyFans tax, yeah, there was a post that I saw today where the Florida, the potential governor, this guy that wants to run for the governorship, he's implementing a tax on OnlyFans creators. And yeah, Canada needs one too. Canada absolutely needs one. Because the rule of law with policy is, the rule of thumb with policy is you subsidize the things you want to see more of and you tax the things that you don't want to see as much of. And we want to tax as much as we can from OnlyFans, considering that Canada is in like the top 5 nations for both consumers and producers of OnlyFans content. Okay, we're not going to build the next generation of Canadians if a good chunk of us are either absorbed into it or are creators of the porn industry. That's not how you build families. That's not how you nation build with a bunch of fucking men gooning around. No, that is not how you build a strong nation. The judges, these are people that adjudicate on cases that will rule, let's say, this person here, Avi Yao Yao, who's not even Canadian born, shouldn't even be in the judicial system, if you ask me. She's been protecting a lot of the immigration policies that have been coming out of the government for the longest time now. So people like her need to be fired. Right, the deport list, this list is going to contain the names of all the criminals, all the people who do not have citizenship, who have committed crimes, either murder or assault or what have you, that should be deported, but still haven't been. And this isn't doxing, right? I'm not going to be going into people's private, Facebook pages and finding them and shit. No, this is all based on public information. Police reports and news stories and what have you, where they actually release the names and identities of these people. There's a good chunk of them that still remain in Canada. For instance, that pedophile that I talked about a couple of episodes back that showed pornography of an underage child to his wife that didn't think anything of it because apparently in their culture it's accepted. And he's still in this country, I think like 8 years later. I mean, need I say more? For the scandals, so these are just scandals that haven't been addressed. And the brands to boycott. Tim Hortons being number 1 for their hiring of the temporary foreign workers and everything they did during COVID to the kids that they didn't let in their camps and all that. So this list is a work in progress. I will post a link in the description. It's also on my Twitter. You can see it there in the master thread that I've made. This master thread will contain any and all works relating to the Whitepill project. It'll have everything updated there. The list, I've already made a post about it here. Yep. You can find it here. It's all on Twitter. And like I said, I'll be posting it in the description, but with that being said, we'll tie this one off because we've been going for a while. I appreciate every single one of you for tuning in tonight. Thank you for making it this far. You know what? I will end off with this because this question was posed to me in the YouTube comments there. I don't know if they're still here, but earlier in the episode, I mentioned that when I was in conversation with people on, well, just in Canada, especially during the peak times of COVID, you had to kind of mask your beliefs if you didn't want somebody spurging out in front of you. So you create this kind of shit test to see who shares your beliefs and who doesn't. And I mean, it was just basic things. You know, you'd start talking about maybe the house hippo or some things that you saw on TV, just to kind of remember, you know, oh yeah, those were some good times. Those were some good times. And then maybe dip your toes in, oh man, the TTC, the public transit, feels kind of unsafe right now. You know, it's still on neutral ground. It's still on neutral ground because it's an objective fact rather, the TTC was getting dangerous. You know, everybody can agree to that. Everybody's got to take the TTC, or just about, right? But then slowly but surely, you know, you'd make your way into maybe talk about some hockey. Hey, you catch a game last night? You see the Leafs lose, right? And then maybe we can ask them how they feel about Don Cherry getting canceled for talking about how immigrants and city people don't wear poppies on Remembrance Day. Maybe you slip a little one of those in. You know, that'll signal something. Or maybe during COVID, you ask them, oh man, yeah, my favorite barber shut down. It kind of sucks. And depending on what they answered, you'd kind of know where they were. So yeah, in Canada, yeah, you do kind of have to, if you don't live in a neighborhood where you know that you can speak freely, yeah, you got to do this shit test with people sometimes to find out if they're, I don't know, awake to what's actually happening to the country, or if they're just willfully ignoring it because ideologically everything that they believe is happening, that they believe is right, is happening. Yeah, it's kind of weird. You're navigating a false reality. There's not really a guidebook for it. That's what living in Canada is like these days. So, yeah, in any case, with that, we'll end off this episode. We've been going for a while. I appreciate every single one of you for making it this far. If you have, as always, you can support me by going to bio.link/whitepill. That is where you can find anything and everything related to the Whitepill project. I thank each and every one of you for having made it this far. I hope you all have a wonderful night. I'm looking forward to Wednesday's episode. Promise it's not going to be nearly as long. Actually, you know what? I don't promise that. Fuck that. We'll see what happens. But yes, as always, Canada first and foremost, and always. I thank each and every one of you once again for tuning in, and yeah, we'll see you guys in a couple of days.